Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining the Decisions Lunch and Learn. I see we got some pre-submitted questions today, so I'm going to go through those. Didn't get a chance to looking at them live since I'm filling in for Will today on this Lunch and Learn. So let me see here. We got one from Chris. See, we are working to support 9 new production environments. Or non-production environments, and we're looking for a way to update system settings by file load or by utility flow to reduce the amount of manual config needed for each environment. The short list of settings we want to edit would, with less manual work, would include flow constants, Active Directory settings, designer repo settings, designer studio settings, and portal settings. Okay, so Chris, is this I mean, I see you've made a list here. Are you also referring to like things like settings XML settings, or is it really just the in designer settings in app?
Well, as I understand, the XML settings are in a file that I would be reluctant to try and edit by way of decisions. I think that's just looking for trouble. And I don't think it's going to work for what we're doing. We're talking about things that, it's sort of like I have instructions to my administrators that you need to, find your way down the directory tree to this area, click on these settings, and now I need you to find this particular thing and change this little setting here to, either uncheck it or check it or change the number or something of that sort. So I was just looking for ways that maybe it could be less point and click kinds of, exhaustive discussion of what to find where and what to do, because this is something we may have to do with some frequency. If there would be a way that I could have maybe a flow change these settings, or I didn't know if they had the option to, for example, load from a CSV file was one of the other ideas I had.
Right. Yeah, that's understandable. Some of this stuff that I see in your list, honestly, most of it is not exportable or importable. I think there would be some, yes, like things like flow constants, things like that. Yeah, I think there would be some setup probably involved in what I mean. I don't right now out of the box. The short answer is we don't have a way to export or migrate those settings in kind of an easy way. Unfortunately, right now they are manual. Now I think maybe one way potentially, and this is just me thinking out loud, without maybe this might be something to coordinate a little bit with support on. But one way I can think of, just thinking out loud, would be that if you have a database that has these, I guess I have to ask you this question first: are these non-production environments going to have largely the same settings, across the board with everything you've listed here?
The Active Directory settings, yes. The repository settings, yes. And Designer Studio and Portal settings, they will be, I would say, like 90% the same. I can sort of see a 10% difference showing up there. Flow constants, there will definitely be changes, but I'm sort of working to cut the number of flow constants we have in play.
Okay. So with environment variables, I'd have to double check if those are exportable. But as for everything else, they live in the database, and there's not currently in the product a way to export them, except since you've informed me that a lot of the settings are going to be largely the same, maybe with some modifications. One way you could approach this potentially is maybe using a template database. For example, you have a database that is operating on Decisions where you've configured all of these settings already. And then when you go to deploy new non-production environments, you install against a copy of that same database. And so when you install, it's acting as kind of a prototype or template database, because you're installing against a copy of the DB that already has all of this stuff configured. So you could, you deploy 9 new production or non-production environments, you use 9 copies of that original database that already has all of this stuff configured. And then you go into each ones and adjust them based on what their individual needs are.
As I understand it, a multi-tenant server behaves exactly in this way. And it's actually our drive to stand up a multi-tenant server that prompts this question. So, so I'm kind of looking at the 10%, difference that will happen within flow constants and also in, I was a little unclear. Now, I mean, would Active Directory, so in a multi-tenant system, does an Active Directory configuration get copied to the new tenant? Is one of those questions. Is there some things that do not copy? I'm aware of that. Particularly, what doesn't copy is user accounts. And
right.
So I didn't know if that extended, to the larger Active Directory settings as well, or if the Active Directory settings would actually get copied.
I'd like to say, and I could be wrong about this, I'd like to say that active, the AD settings do get copied in, but the accounts, they don't. Honestly, I'm not quite sure. And MT wouldn't necessarily be a use case that is meant to solve this request. It is a separate need for MT.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely, if you have other use cases that require MT, then that's why I would use multi-tenancy. But if it's meant for streamlining deployment, I think there could be easier ways to do that, like what I may have mentioned, because multi-tenancy, it has its own set of limitations, and it has a very specific use case basically. So if it just comes to ops management or deployment management, it might not be suited specifically to solving that need. But this is it's a big topic. That was my first idea. I think this kind of subject probably requires some coordination with the support team, probably.
All right. I had a strong recommendation to show up today to ask this specific question. So I'm kind of disappointed Will's not here to field it. I think he was aware of it, and I don't know what other things he had in mind there.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, yeah, if it was Will who wanted to work this question, yeah, he definitely knows more about this than I do. He should be scheduled to come back on tomorrow. So if that was where this question originated from, he might have already had a predetermined answer for it. And like I said, I had to cover in. So if you're able to join tomorrow, if not, I can certainly organize a follow-up. And figure out what his thoughts were and coordinate from there. I can add this as a follow-up and get that coordinated.
So to reiterate, you expect Will is going to join tomorrow at noon?
Yeah, he is scheduled to. He unexpectedly had to. I had to cover for him at the last minute today. So.
I mean, originally we posed this question to Adam Moore. We've actually talked about multi-tenancy with Adam quite a bit. To the point that I get what you're saying, that multi-tenancy has a slightly different use case in mind. But in terms of the other administrative benefit savings that we see for what we're doing, even though it's outside of your usual example, it is compelling enough. We've bought the license, and now we're just trying to actually start to put nuts and bolts together. And this is one of those things that I'm kind of looking at, well, this is going to be the kind of thing that's easy to forget, and I'm trying to figure out what's the most effective way to make that easier, more foolproof, more complete, which, like I said, gets me to this question. Can we defer it? Can we bring it? Can you maybe advance it for tomorrow's meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. We can add this as defer it as a pre-submitted question in the same way that we did today. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so Adam Moore is also who told me, hey, you ought to be there on Monday day because Will wants to see this question. I'm like, okay, here I am Monday, and then
yeah, that was That's just how it played out. That's very unfortunate timing. But yeah, he is. I mean, this is right up his alley. So that makes sense why he would want to discuss this. So yeah, we can defer that, and then he is scheduled on for tomorrow, and then we can, he can demonstrate the answer he was eager to give you.
Very good. Let's make a plan.
All right. Yeah, we'll make a note. Okay. So let's see, we got 2 more pre-submitted questions. Thank you, Sabrina, for noting that. 2 more pre-submitted questions for today. So from Murray, is there a place within decisions where we can increase the maximum size for document uploads? We're running into an issue with images for ORC that are larger than 1 megabyte. Yeah, there are, I believe, 2 places that you normally can increase document upload limits. But I was curious, what issue are you running into? Is just an error that's saying the size is too large?
Yes, it's just an error that says the maximum size is 1 meg, which seems kind of small. So we wondered if there was a way to change that.
Yeah. So let me share my screen here. So it kind of depends a little bit on what version you're on. I'm assuming that when you go to upload it, is this on a form that you're trying to upload it?
Yes.
Okay. Let's just say test. Oh, does it now? I already made it. I did. All right, I'll just pull up a form here real quick. So the first place would be usually on the component itself. I think we do have some limits in the back end, but that 1 megabyte limit, if I recall correctly, is on the component. This is a much earlier version. I'm running on 5.11 right now, so hopefully I don't get into any.
Oh, I did see it. Oh.
Yep.
Never would have thought it was that easy.
There it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and file reference also does not have that implicit limit.
Okay.
But if you're already handling file data, then yeah, you specify it on the component there.
Okay. All right, and we need like 3 meg. So I would assume that that's not something we would have to look somewhere else. It's just right here on the component. Right?
No, yeah, I don't remember what the upper limit is for much larger files offhand, but most people don't run into that. So this is the place where you have to concern with.
Okay, that's all I need. Well, we're on version 6 and version 7, but I'm sure I'll be able to figure out where it is.
Yeah, it's the same location. It should. It's the same location on 6 and 7. Yep. Yep. So easy enough. All right. Let me see here. And then we had a third pre-submitted question. This is from John. It says, delete an uploaded file attached on a form triggered by a drop-down box, and the form has not yet been submitted yet. Okay.
Oh, do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, John.
Okay, so the thing is this, I want to make sure, not the drop-down box, it's okay, not that's the issue. I want to make sure that. So the issue is here. The requirement is I have a form, and on the form I have an object, upload file object, and I have a drop-down box, and when I switch that drop-down box, the fields on the form are reset. I have a bunch of them. I know how to do them, it's worked fine. However, I try to reset the upload object. Now, this object does not listen. I mean, I cannot reset it. I cannot delete the file once it's uploaded. But the point here is the form was not yet submitted. And the upload file does not come from anywhere. I mean, upstream flow. No, it's not. It's uploaded here on this form. So my question is there a way to reset these? I mean, to delete the files? Do you understand my problem?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So what you're running into is you have again some kind of upload component.
Yes.
Is it it probably shouldn't matter, but is it multiple file or just
No,
single
use
file?
a simple one.
Just
For
this one?
better purpose, it's better to have a simple one, let's say.
So you select a file here. Let's see. Let's get some example here. Just get a button.
And it's a file reference, by the way. The type of the upload file, it's file reference.
Gotcha. So normally what I would expect to see, and maybe you're not seeing this, if I recall correctly, there should be some UI element on the actual component that allows you to get rid of the upload, but we'll go ahead and double check that now. Set this up. Okay. Let me just so it matches, let's say file reference. Shouldn't matter. It should be the same either way though. Okay, sure. I'm gonna select a file.
My point is maybe I cannot because the file was not, the form was not submitted.
So this, do you not get this little UI element here? There's
I do. I get it.
So this allows you to deselect the upload
Yes,
file.
yes, that's fine. But I don't want, okay, that's the issue here. I get that. I have this X, I can use it, but I want the file to be deselected, I mean, removed when the drop-down box is switched, not when I go manually and click on the...
Okay. You want a trigger to clear the data in here.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. So let's, the way I would think you should be able to do that, and I would have to double check, would be like a data flow perhaps.
I build it. I build it and the data flow works fine for other fields, but not for this field. That's the issue.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me see. Hopefully this isn't something that is, what version are you running on?
Just wait, I'll tell you. Version. Okay, the version is 6.17.1.
Okay, so that's recent enough version.
6.17.1, revision 70538.
Gotcha.
This is old or it's pretty new, pretty recent?
It's recent enough that there shouldn't be a change to how this behaves. So yeah,
Okay.
that's recent enough. So let's see here. Show up for file data maybe. Hmm. I know we've had to have done this before.
Okay, so I can help you eventually. If you go on click, I did this, and go on click edit of the flow. And what
you
I
just
did,
made the output as a null.
no, I declare a file reference here. File reference type is no. Okay, file data. No, I use file reference. Okay, it's up to you. I use a file reference name and I declare as a file reference.
Let's try
As
that.
a, yeah, it's working.
Okay, there we go. I did a partial search.
But just a moment. Make sure you choose. Okay, it's correct. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, it's fine. And don't use null because this is a predefined field. I believe it might cause some issue. Doesn't like, you see, null. It's used sometimes in a different.
Yeah,
I will say use a file name.
Blank.
Use a file name on the show editor. It's more easier, more better. Show editor, go on show editor, use file name. This is what I will do.
I'm concerned that if I enter a file name here, that it will just enter that file name. If I make this an output, then on the form you will see the file name, and it won't actually remove it the way that you're looking for.
Okay, I know what you say, but I think once you declare the file name, then you can say it's null or something like this. You say ignore, you don't put any input data. So the file name will be there, but it's null. Why? Because you don't provide any data. You say it's null. You can define.
So this is, that's currently what it is. It's blank.
Okay, do it in this way.
Yeah.
I did in a different way, but I believe it's the same.
All right, let's just say flow null. Yeah, it doesn't.
No, you see, that's the issue, which I found.
Yeah,
and if you check, you will see that it's working fine. I found the URL, I found ID, I found everything. So it's working, but at the end, one thing it's bothering me. Maybe we have to refresh the form. That's one thing I was thinking. And the second is maybe because we didn't submit, then the file it's not known. I don't know. It's just question. It's brainstorming here.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I am sure that we have done this before. I think it may not be as obvious as how we're trying to do it, though. I distinctly remember because I'm on the support team, and I distinctly remember working this a couple of years back, and I'm trying to remember the solution.
Okay, you can do something. Hey, it's easy for us. I did with the wheel the same thing. Forget about me. Please take my name, my email address, talk with Sabrina, and come back to me when you have. And in that way, everybody will be happy because maybe there are some other guys waiting in the line. What do you think about this?
No, yeah, absolutely. That's where my head is now. I just wanted to confirm. I thought it was a little simpler than that. So yeah, we're definitely going to have to.
Yeah, because I don't like to work under pressure. I hate this. So I try to be as much as nice with other people around me in the same way. I mean, why should I put pressure for you?
No, absolutely. I thought that was going to be simpler, because it's just a trigger on a component. But since it's not working off just immediately, normally, of course, that is how you would do it, like you said, with any other component.
Yeah.
But yeah, for some reason, I do recall that this component just behaves a little differently. So yeah, we'll want to defer that, and I'm sure we can pull that up pretty quickly for you, though.
So what you have to do, please make sure, Brandon, this is your name, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, please make sure you have my email address and call me back or reach to me when you are okay, you have an answer, or make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, Sabrina. I think we want to follow up with John here. So
Okay.
let's go
Thank you.
ahead. Yeah, absolutely. No problem.
Thank you, Brandon, for your time.
All right. So see the Q&A here from Jackie. Is there a setting to validate that only a selected value can be chosen? Yeah, absolutely. So just to clarify, you're referring to, this would be on a form?
Yeah, so I have a form, and it's email addresses, but it allows me to type in a different one that's not in the list, and it also allows me to paste something in there, and it'll allow that. So I wondered if there was a setting, and further, I created where I'd put a checkbox on the form, and I ran a rule to see that they matched. So the items does this item match from something on the list? And it checks the box, which is fine, and that works. But then I can paste one in after that, and it doesn't uncheck the box. So I guess the first thing is there something on the form component that will do that for me without doing all the rules and everything else? Or, what's wrong with my rule, why it won't uncheck? I guess there's no trigger. So once you paste something in, there's no trigger to run that rule again.
Sure. Yeah, it sounds like what might be helpful is like a validation rule that contains a list. It should trigger with every entry you make in that drop-down list. So you have, and I can pull this up here, but you have a validation rule. Let's just say.
Right. So what I did was I created a validation rule, but just to check that checkbox is checked. So, all right.
So instead, I think what you probably want is a validation rule that just checks if the current email address is in the list. So the list of valid email addresses, for example, you could have, in the validation rule. Let me pull that up. We'll say trigger on the drop-down box selection changed. So on the validation rule, you want to make sure that you have this here selected. So this way, whenever the selection changes on the drop-down box, that this rule will trigger. And then we'll apply it to the drop-down box. And we'll go ahead and create our rule here. Sure, check drop-down.
Although when you're pasting something in, you're not actually triggering that.
So you're saying that if you paste a value into this, it doesn't trigger the rule?
Right.
That shouldn't be the case.
Because it's
not, you're saying, it's not acknowledging the coming from the clipboard or something?
Yeah, it's not acknowledging because you're not actually triggering that drop down.
Okay.
But I did the long way around, so I'll just see what you do.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is there, that's just selection changed, because it should just be value changed. It's like, maybe I think I can get version 7 started on here as well. I have both versions on the same. Yeah,
I'm on 6.15.
This is a collateral of me covering at the last second. I have a very old version of 5 on here, and so it's hard for me to tell what is supposed to be, you know, what might be just a known bug from a long time. It is a very old version of 5. So there's tons of differences probably. Let me make sure. I do have 7 co-located on the same machine though, so I should be able to spin that up while I pull this back up. So yeah, I'll double check this. We'll just confirm that it even runs at all. In fact, to make this a little simpler. Because if that's the case, then yeah, I definitely see your problem. You said you're on version 6?
Yeah, 6.1.5.
Okay. So we'll just output some, I don't know, Boolean here, something really simple. We'll say true. Okay. And then just get a checkbox to listen to that. And then that data flow needs to be triggered by the selection change on the dropdown. All right, so now if that trigger is working, we should see the checkbox tick. So I will just, yeah, let me grab something to paste. Yeah, okay, yeah, I see exactly what you mean. All right. So I should have, here, let me switch my share real quick. I should have version 7 so we can actually confirm. Yep, okay, I got that up, and we'll just make sure, because I feel like I've seen a difference there where it's not, there shouldn't just be selection changed. Should also be something to the effect of value changed.
Value changed.
Right. Okay. There we go, version 7. Let's just see if that property is even there, the that trigger. Yeah, see, it stopped typing. So we would, I think what we would need to, you said 615.
Yes.
Okay, so this is what you're looking for. This trigger here, I think, trying to think if there is another way around it on your version. I'm not sure offhand though. So what we could do is one of 2 things. As a follow-up, just to either double check that this is in the latest version of 6, which is where I think I recall seeing it.
Yeah, I do have that, and I do have it on.
Oh, you have it on the latest version?
Oh, yeah, and I do have it clicked on the rule.
Okay, do you see the trigger in the rule or the data flow on so you're in like 618 or something?
615. I have
Okay, 615.
a selection change and a stopped typing.
Oh, okay. 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 I didn't
Yeah.
realize that you had already seen it there. Okay. Yeah. So that's the value that's the trigger that should on paste.
And okay, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it should. So if anything, that might be a kind of like I don't want to call it a defect, but like an improvement, because I think that logically we should have a trigger that respects pasting, but I'll go ahead and I might as well just put the checkbox on here and check here, because that way we can follow up with honestly a DT, and then if there is a workaround that I'm not thinking of right now that we can deliver to you in the meantime. So true, false. Trigger checkbox. Oh, that just popped up just now. So there's value change. Do you?
No,
you
I don't have.
this?
Oh, I do have a value change to open.
So, okay, so I guess this just populated after I defined some of the data flow, which also
okay.
doesn't sound correct, but so that I would expect that to work. Maybe you can switch it to that trigger and test it real quick if that's quicker, since I gotta change this.
Yeah, I got a few of them, so I'm not sure which one I'm looking at now. So
yeah, no worries. I should be done with this in just a few seconds here.
6 p.m. submitted for.
Value changed. Yep.
A group list. Well, so this is a group list.
Yeah.
Oh no, one's my checkbox. Sorry, go ahead. Because I have two rules, right? So you're just doing the one validation rule, and I have it set up differently.
Okay. I gotta match the data name to this thing real quick. I guess that's something we also changed in 7. Oh, maybe I just didn't. Yeah, let's do that. There we go. Now it's populated. Get a button on here. All right. Oh yeah, this needs a name. Let's just say string and static and blah, blah, blah. All right, there we go. So let's paste something in there. If I type, okay, so my trigger is just not going. Oh. That's something I probably messed up. Make sure this data flow is listening to this. Okay, if this doesn't work, we'll have to follow up, because this does look configured correctly, but for some reason the data flow is not wanting to trigger for me here. Let's just double check. There we go. Okay, so let's just try it again with pasting. Yeah, so that trigger, those triggers seem to work. So I would say probably value change as opposed to stop typing, or I mean one or either, I assume should have a very similar effect when you actually paste something. So
yeah,
give those
So
a try.
looks like I have to just do the one validation rule as opposed to two, because the first one I have, the data flow, I don't have that value changed selection.
You don't have the value changed in, sorry, the validation rule?
No, sorry. I don't have it for the first, so my checkbox data flow, where I'm checking the box, I don't have a value changed, but I do have a value changed actually on the valid. Oh, sorry, I'm really confusing things. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the validation, and I'm going to ignore my checkboxes for now and see if I can get that to work.
Okay, yeah, because it sounded like the trigger in the first place was kind of the big issue. But I mean, you can get away with the same validation you're looking for, whether it's on a validation rule or a data flow. You can kind of skin them both ways, but either one, as long as you have that trigger, yeah, you should be able to get closer to what you're going for.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give that a try. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see what else do we got here. Okay, from JK. So how to set the default culture via a step or an internal service within a flow.
That's right. So Brendan, there is a step, right? Sorry, there is a setting where I can change this culture information. But I'm just looking for a step or an internal service which allows me to do the same, right? Because everything we are trying to automate a lot of settings. So rather than somebody logging into the portal and going to the settings and globalization setting and then setting that option, I want to do it through an API which is triggered from outside.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I offhand, I have no idea if we have an internal service step that is exposed, that is dedicated to changing the culture.
Yeah, I did do a digging, but I couldn't find one. But I don't know, maybe it's a single record in some table, right? Maybe we can directly update that. I don't know what would be the recommended option is.
Yeah, so I mean, anytime you make a modification to the database, of course, likely you're going to have to perform a restart.
Of SHM,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so I mean, you'd have to include that in your deployment process.
Sure. Yep. Okay.
But again, offhand, that's a very unique request. I think that would require a little bit of digging. We do like you were referring to internal services. We do expose basically almost every .NET method we have in some way or another in the step toolbox, but whether or not they're like friendly or accessible or
yeah.
So and then as far as the database goes, I would assume, I assume that we have to have that record tied to our users. I think the distinction there is whether or not that data is serialized or not. So there's a lot of
okay, gotcha.
There's a lot of maybes. Yeah, we'd have to dig a little deeper. I definitely don't know offhand. I'm sure there's something, but yeah.
Okay, and I don't think this is tied to a user. This is a system-wide setting. So everybody would have the same, formatting.
Right. Yeah, I think associated with an account, some have like the translation options, but for just the entire environment, it's pretty much the similar issue. Yeah, you have to.
Okay.
I think we'd have to do some digging there for you.
Okay.
So perhaps, yeah, I don't think anybody on our team would know that offhand without us double checking for you. Probably either on a support ticket or probably ideally a support ticket, because that might require some digging.
Okay. All right. I have one other question. Can I ask, or you're busy with other questions?
Yeah, no, please.
Okay. The other one is that yesterday I looked into some of your webinar presentation, and one thing that kind of popped out was an application called Tomato. It was something in version 7, and I think it was nicely built a form called Tomato. Does it ring a bell at all?
No, not to me, but I can,
Okay.
I can reach out to the team behind the webinar. Do you remember what the topic of the webinar, so I can find it for you a little faster?
Yeah, I think it was something about forms in version 7.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and my question was that, is it possible to get a sample of that form, like in an export of something, so we can take a look how it was built?
Yeah, I mean, we do that all the time.
Okay.
So I just needed to confirm, I would need to confirm what the lift is there from their team, if it's just a simple export, or if
Yeah.
it's got, a ridiculous number of weird dependencies or something like that.
Okay.
So they can confirm that for me and then package it up for us and then send it over to you.
Okay. Okay, perfect. I mean, it looked pretty neat in terms of how the how it was presented. It was neatly arranged with navigation and everything. It's all in a single form, right, with the multi tabs and everything. So
yeah. So as you said, the topic was forms in version 7. So
yeah.
I'll go ahead and ask them about that.
Okay.
And maybe get you a quick answer, and if we can just email that over. Here, I'll go ahead and let me just see if I can reach out right now while we wait for the while we get to the next answer.
Okay, thank you.
Version 7 forms webinar. Okay, so we'll add that as a follow-up if I don't get an answer by the end of today's session here.
Okay, do I need to make a ticket, or I think you got it?
No, we'll handle the follow-up for you. If we need to generate something, we'll go ahead and handle all of that for you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, JK.
Sure.
Okay. What else we got here? So I think we've cleared out a lot of these questions. I think I see some other stuff that may have came into the chat. Okay. Josh, let's see. I think you said you might not still be here by the time we got to you. I think I see your name in there.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, so you had some questions about case entities. I see the documentation.
Yeah, I was looking at the documentation earlier today. And
this one right here?
Yeah, so there's this yellow box here that says case entities utilize built-in configuration folders meant for storing flows, rules, and or other designer elements that enhance the data structure. It is not intended for process data storage.
Yep.
So I'm still learning all the terminology, but as part of the case entity creation process that I have before it gets created, I generate some data that I want to know, should I be storing that as part of the case entity, or do I need to be storing that separate as a separate, just regular entity, so to speak, and then link it up with the case entity, I guess is what I want to do. I want to do it right. I'm sure I'm sure there's wrong way, I'm sure the wrong ways are still okay, but I want to if someone else needs to ever take it over from me, then I want them to know that I followed the right protocols, and then not be like, oh, that Vogel guy just did whatever he wanted and didn't care for the. So.
Absolutely. I totally get your question. I think it'll help to clarify what we have, I guess, screamed in caps here, which is what we refer to as process data, colloquially, that sometimes it's called transactional data, whatever you like to call it. Basically, it's just live data. And so specifically what we're referring to here, and let's use, a case entity as an example, is, you have your flow and it will create case entity objects. So in production, for example, you've got live data case entity objects that are being created by the flow. What we're saying here specifically is just that if you recall, when you actually first create the case entity structure at design time, you see that a configuration folder also gets generated. That's like a companion folder, basically. Right. And so what we're saying is just that in your flow, when you're specifying what folder what folder or what folders the live case data lives in, is that you should not put any live, or in this case, we call it process data. You should not put any live data in the configuration folder. So you should not be specifying that folder for objects to be saved or case entity objects to be saved inside of there. As far as what the standard practice goes, it's again, we're coming into a distinction between design time versus runtime or live, and we have a distinction in decisions between two types of primary folders. We have our designer folders, and then we have just folders. So what you should be doing is just making a normal folder, or folders, what have you.
See. Okay, I get it. Okay.
Exactly, and putting them in those folders.
Okay, so but there's on the design of the case entity, there's like this box in the lower left-hand corner called data. I can put whatever data I want in that part of the case entity, right? That's fine, right?
I'm trying to remember what you're referring to. So you when you're actually when you're in the editor for the structure itself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And so there's a checkbox called what?
There's a box. There's like an area of the designer that says data. Like there's the top part that has all the colored boxes, each stage, and then I haven't checked if it makes any difference, but I don't think
it shouldn't. I think it should look pretty similar. So, so we're in the editor. We've got the structure type name, and you said there's something here.
I guess all of these. All of these. It's just I guess all of these. Sorry, when I do, all of these things in the name on the left hand side here under like just down a little bit, like right there. So I can put like the let's say the applicant's name in there on that case entity, right? That's fine? Is that?
Yeah. So this is the frame, like the structure. The structure of it, right? I guess it's not
okay.
So if you like want applicant name, you go applicant name.
Right. Okay. No, I get you. Okay.
Right.
I was that yellow box sort of like set off a bunch of like alarms in my head. I'm like, oh, am I doing this right? And so I just wanted to make sure I was.
Gotcha. Yeah. It sounds like you're on the right track. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. So I'm going to be using this case entity to keep track of the status of what I build that constructs the case entity.
Yeah, so this is the it's like I'm using the same word, but this is the structure of the data.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and then in the flow, in the flow itself, the data will use that structure as a form, to live in.
Okay, I think that answers my question.
Sure. I mean, and definitely reach out if you have more.
I will.
All right. Thanks, Josh. All right. So possibly our last question here, time permitting, from John Balta. Is it possible to rearrange fields dynamically on a form? Yeah, so I mean, you want the ability maybe, for example, so that when a user, when the form actually renders in the middle of a process, for an end user, for example, to rearrange the fields, you want the end user to be able to rearrange them, or let me see if John is able to.
Okay, I will be quick. So I have a situation when I have a form which has a bunch of fields, but some of them I have to hide. When I hide the field, the form doesn't look very well. I mean, you see spots where it's empty space. So my question was, is there a way, having the static fields created on the form already, is there a way dynamically to reposition them on the form, not the end user? This has to be done automatically.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I understand the request. So yeah, like you said, if you're using the form and for some reason a field needs to be hidden, you said there's like an empty space that's left behind. So currently there is the actual size of the form can't be changed. So if the contents inside of it, change, obviously they're the outside, the actual container of the form, that part can't be changed. with that being said, you know, that we do have, I'm trying to recall the name of the type of container that makes it so that, you know, maybe the size of the other components on the form will adjust accordingly to fill that empty space.
Are you thinking of vertical stacks?
Vertical stacks still leave an empty space.
Gotcha.
It's close to that. It's something that previous version, I don't know if we've succeeded in doing it a little better in version 7. We may have made some really big changes there. I'm trying to recall. It's a type of container that we had that previously didn't really fulfill the promise. Yeah, it was a responsive grid. But what I recall from responsive grids in previous versions is that they didn't really they weren't that great at rearranging the contents. But the idea behind it normally, and to, you know, just to be clear, I don't. This is not something I've checked in on in a while, so I don't really have the latest information on this. We could be doing this better.
Okay, leave it. I understood. So it's not very short and easy answer on an easy solution. I understood. I get that. And less, it remained for me space to dig more eventually and to talk. Okay,
Sure,
thank you
but
very
for your
much, sir.
information, yeah, before we end off here, I just want to let you know that the name of what you're looking for is a responsive layout, and we are working on that. I don't know where we're currently at with it though, but if this is working, you know, better than I remember it did, the idea would be that you put components inside of this grid, and then when you hide those components, then every other component in it tries to adjust to fill in the space. Again, I just don't remember. I just don't know offhand where we're at currently with this, because before it wasn't functioning.
You understood me very well. So thank you very much, Brandon.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks, John, again for another good question. I mean, we're out of time. We're at the end of the hour. I mean, we had a ton of great questions today, and a lot of participants. So I hope you guys learned something. Thank you so much for coming on and asking. We got a few follow-ups. So for those that were promised to follow up, please expect us to reach out. And again, thank you guys so much for joining us. You know, come again tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.